Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. Let me tell you about the most heartless person I've ever met in my entire life. I've encountered my fair share of awful people over the years, but none compare to this despicable woman who lives in my neighborhood, Karen. My son Jake was born with a rare genetic disorder that left him unable to walk from a very young age. By the time he was 3, it was clear he would need a wheelchair to get around. It broke my heart knowing the challenges my little boy would face, but I vowed to give him the best life possible. When Jake turned 5, we got him a custom wheelchair designed just for kids. It had bright colors and his favorite cartoon characters printed on it. Jake absolutely loved his new chair, and it gave him a sense of independence for the first time. He zoomed around our house and yard, giggling with delight at his newfound mobility. The day after we got the wheelchair, I decided to take Jake to the neighborhood park near our house. It was a warm, sunny day, perfect for enjoying the outdoors. As we rolled up the path into the park, Jake was beaming from ear to ear. "This is so fun, Mommy," he exclaimed. "I love my new chair." We were having a great time until a shrill voice rang out. "What do you think you're doing bringing something like that here?" I turned to see Karen, a woman I recognized from the neighborhood, storming towards us. Before I could respond, she kept ranting. "That wheelchair is an eyesore. It's going to lower my property value having to look at something so ugly whenever I come to the park." I was stunned. How could someone be so cruel about a disabled child? "I'm sorry, but this wheelchair allows my son to move around independently," I replied calmly. "He has every right to be at this public park." "I don't care what your problem is," Karen spat back. "That hideous contraption does not belong here. I won't have it ruining the aesthetics of this neighborhood." At this point, poor Jake looked close to tears. "My chair isn't ugly. I love it," he said defiantly. Karen's face contorted in anger, and she suddenly reached into her bag, pulling out a can of pepper spray. Before I could react, she leaned down and sprayed Jake right in the face at close range. He screamed in pain, covering his eyes and gagging. I was absolutely horrified, but my first instinct was to help my child. I grabbed a water bottle from my own bag and flushed his eyes to get the painful spray out. Jake was wailing, his little face red and swollen. "It burns, Mommy. My eyes hurt." My blood boiled looking at Karen, who seemed totally unremorseful. "What is wrong with you?" I shouted. "He's just a disabled child, and you pepper sprayed him for no reason." "He should have kept that monstrosity at home where it belongs," Karen replied coldly. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. At that moment, a few other people at the park came over to see what was going on. I quickly explained the situation, and one offered to call the police while others helped me tend to poor Jake. Within 10 minutes, the police arrived. Karen tried to spin some story blaming us, but multiple witnesses vouched for what had happened. The officers arrested her on the spot for assault and use of a dangerous weapon. We pressed full charges, and I made sure to get a restraining order against her after the fact. Jake was traumatized by the experience and terrified to use his wheelchair outside for a long time afterwards. The lasting damage done to my son was what enraged me the most about Karen's despicable actions, that someone could be so petty and cruel over a wheelchair she deemed unsightly. Her vanity and entitlement led her to assault a disabled child, leaving emotional scars that would take time to heal. We ended up moving a few months later, because the memories were too painful for us to stay in that neighborhood. I heard from former neighbors that Karen was sentenced to 2 years in prison for what she did. A measly penalty for the pain she inflicted, in my opinion, but at least some justice was served. The silver lining is that the experience brought attention to the issue of disability rights. My son found courage despite what happened, becoming a voice for the disabled community. It amazes me how he took such a horrific encounter and turned it into motivation to advocate for others. As for the neighborhood, they rallied together supporting disability awareness, even holding fundraisers for organizations that help special needs kids. So while one callous woman tried to ruin things with her thoughtless actions, she inadvertently brought more good into the world. But I will never forget or forgive what Karen did to my son. Some people let their own vanity and prejudice cloud their humanity. My hope is that what happened opens eyes and helps prevent such vile acts in the future. No child should have to suffer abuse just for being different. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I moved from the Toronto area back up north in 2007. In 2008, we bought a home on a 4-acre forested lot from the original owner. Through conversations with the original owner, I remembered him muttering something about how the neighbor to the north had their driveway awful close to the property line. I thought no more about it until later that fall. Our neighbor's house was built slab on grade, and the builder must have messed up or not properly installed any drainage for the gravel pad. Every time it rained, they had water into their ground floor, an inconvenience to say the least. But not my problem. That is, until the neighbor rented an excavator and had a deep ditch dug all along our side of his driveway, dumping all of rocks and spoil from the excavation onto our property. We also lost a number of trees, this all mature black maple sugarbush trees. I was getting concerned. We had problems with a jerk neighbor in Toronto and ended up having to get a survey and put up a fence. I wasn't going to lose any sleep worrying about it this time. Call for a surveyor and get this over with. It turns out the OLS firm I called were the ones who surveyed the development when it was built 10 years earlier. They had no trouble mapping out how and where the neighbor's driveway for over 100 feet now arced up to 12 feet onto our property. Never mind the rocks and dirt in the bush beyond that. I sent a registered letter with a copy of the survey and a polite letter to our neighbor. With registered, you have to sign to pick it up. They received it, but did not respond. I waited a month and then sent another registered letter. That one wasn't picked up and was returned to me. Yeah, that should work. If I don't receive the letter, everything will just go away. In way of explanation, the neighbor was a successful local businessman, and in smaller communities, some of them tend to think that they're a bit special and can make their own rules. I learned from the jerk neighbor in Toronto that there's not much point trying to discuss things personally. We have a system. Let's use it. The next letter that's sent to them is from our real estate law firm. They know the right language to use and how to get someone's attention. Surprise! That one not only gets picked up, but we receive a letter from their lawyer. They freely admit that they're at fault and will make everything right. Except they don't. They don't do anything. For the next 3 years. Absolutely nothing. I started receiving expert advice from some of my friends. SJK, you should fix it at your own cost and then sue them for that amount. Well, what if they claim they could have fixed it a lot cheaper, or I did a bunch of things that weren't needed? SJK, you should charge them for all the trees they cut down and make them replace them. Yeah, but we do live in the forest, and trees aren't really hard to find. In fact, we cut down trees that get too big too close to the house. It's not like we're in the big city. I decide to do nothing. After the angst and sleepless nights with the jerks in Toronto, I decide to just wait it out. After all, they've admitted fault through their lawyer. It's not like they can wiggle out of that one or change their minds. I learned that the neighbor's wife hates living in the forest and would much rather have a schmancy house in town. And with the water problem that has never been resolved, it just isn't as much fun as they had thought it would be. 4 years later, what I was waiting for, a realtor's for sale sign in front of their house. I stop and take a picture of the sign so that I have the phone number of the listing agent. I call them as soon as I get to work. Hi, this is SJK. I see you're listing a property at XXX. You may not be aware of this, but your client is trespassing on my property. Of course, the neighbor can't pretend this isn't true, and now we have to clean up the mess to our satisfaction before the property can be sold. Oh my, the 5-yard dump trucks ran for close to 3 weeks. They hauled load after load after load of topsoil. It had to be dumped, spread out, and compacted. The gravel driveway had to be dug up and pulled back to the property line, and all that filled in as well. At the end, it was all seeded with the understanding that it will eventually go back to being forest. SJK, is it okay now? Not quite yet. It looks like there's still a lot of work to do. All the weeping tile, rocks, and piles of dirt were removed as well. Not a job easily done and very time-consuming. Don't get mad. Wait, then get even. The next one is a petty revenge story. Okay, y'all, it's been a crappy week for me, and I was just not having it anymore last night at the grocery store. I meander through the aisles buying my Corona snacks, which I already ate, shocker. And I know I need toilet paper. I hit up the TP aisle to see 6 24-packs of Charmin. I was stoked. In stock and the good stuff at that. There was a middle-aged Karen on the phone standing in front of the stack, so I stupidly wait my turn to grab a pack. Boy, was I wrong. This crazed poop paper hoarder proceeds to look at me, take all 6 packs, put them in her cart, and just roll the duck away with a smirk on her face. I almost crapped myself. Good thing I didn't because there was no TP left. Now, as I mentioned crap paper, Karen was on the phone. She was complaining to someone about how this is the second store she went to, and they better have baby wipes because assholes who don't have kids should not be buying baby wipes when people like her need them. You guessed it. My asthmatic ass sprinted over to the baby aisle all wheezing and crap. I put all probably 20-something containers that were left of wipes, even the ones on the very top of the shelf I had to climb for, in my cart, and I waited. Sure enough, crap paper Karen comes strolling down the aisle, looks at the shelves. I can see her start to get mad. Then she sees me. cart full of snacks and baby wipes, face grinning ear to ear like a crap-eating jack-o'-lantern. Before she can say a word, I wheel my ass away with pep in my step and my petty satisfied as hell. Now, I'm not a complete monster, so as soon as she left the aisle, I went and put all the packages back where they went. But man, the satisfaction was epic. I nearly died of a shard attack laughing, but it's a good thing I didn't because I still have no damn TP. The next one is a malicious compliance story. I work in a casual fine dining restaurant in a downtown area. Prices aren't crazy, but high enough that we don't get a super young crowd. I would say average age of our dinner crowd is 30 to 60, although it varies more on the weekend. I only include this information so you understand why I didn't initially ask for identification, even though you should always check. Thursday night, a table of 4 comes in for early dinner. 2 Karens and their daughters. Excellent. I'm ready for them to split entrees and tip me 15%. Not the worst type of table, if we're being honest, but nonetheless. They order a pitcher of sangria, and I tell them I'll be right back with that for them, to which Mama Karen says to me, "You really aren't going to check these girls' IDs? Her birthday was just last month. Aren't you supposed to check anyone who looks under 40? She is correct, of course, that I should have asked for identification, even though they girls were with their mothers and I was being lazy by assuming they were of age since their moms did not stop them from ordering drinks. I agree with her and tell her that I actually am supposed to check all IDs regardless of age, and proceed to look at all 4 of the ladies' IDs. Unfortunately for Mama Karen, her birthday was a few days previously, and her ID had expired. In the state of Michigan, it is illegal to serve alcohol to anyone with an expired ID regardless of age, so I had to deny Mama Karen a glass for the sangria, while her daughter and friend shared a pitcher. I didn't really have malicious intentions, however. It felt good that Karen's antics backfired on her. The next one is an entitled people story. I don't know if this story really belongs here, but at the time I was 15 and my sister was 9, so I'd been working mowing lawns and babysitting during the summer to save up for a phone. I'd gotten home from working one day, and went to my room to put my money in my piggy bank, only to find it empty on the ground, and my sister sitting on my bed counting my money. I figured she was just curious on how much I saved up or something, so I asked her why she had my money. She looked up at me, put the money in her pocket, and started to walk off. "Oh, I just need some money for the mall." I stopped her from walking out and asked her how much she took. "Oh, only 200, don't worry." I took the money out of her pocket and yelled, "What do you mean only 200? That is all I have. If you need money, ask Mom or Dad." She turned around and started crying and screaming, saying that what's mine is hers. Sharing is caring. Who cares if she takes a little bit of money? And other ridiculous things, until my parents walked in asking what was going on. Before I could answer, my sister yelled that I wouldn't give her anything when she only asked for a couple dollars. At this, my parents became furious at me and told me to give my sister some money and that it was not a big deal. I was forced to give my sister $10. I was, of course, mad. At least it was not $200. Later at dinner, my sister would not come out to eat, so my mom went to go check on her, only to find he in my room counting my money. My sister didn't realize Mom was outside the door, so she put the money in her pocket and tried to walk out the door. Only yo find an angry Mom standing there. My sister, trying not to get in any more trouble, told my mom that who cares if she takes my money, and that it should belong to her too. My mom, of course, took my money back, and I got my $10 back too. Since then, my sister has only tried to take my money a couple times, but it never worked. The next one is an entitled parent story. So my mom, 52F, thinks she can control me, 17M, and every aspect of my life. So for some context, I'm a middle child. I have 2 brothers, 18M and 12M. Both my dad, 55M, and my mom don't work and just get money from my rich grandparents. My dad overall is pretty chill and lets me do whatever and doesn't really give a duck most of the time. But my mom, on the other hand, has a few screws loose. For the last 10-ish years of my life, my mom has been an overbearing parent, always concerned about my grades. I do fine in school, mostly A's and the occasional B. Not letting me hang out with friends on weekdays, always going through my phone and texts and just stuff like that. My mom gave me a phone, but limits my screen time to 30 minutes for everything a day, so yay not much. I am currently writing this Reddit post from a phone I bought off a classmate that my parents don't know about. Since I was young, like around 8 years old, anytime I would make a small mistake, such as forget to take out the garbage, my mom would blow up and yell for hours at me. Sometimes it would even last multiple days. And after she is done yelling at me, she uses anything that I find joy in as punishment. Here are some examples of the punishment she has used in the past. She doesn't let me play video games. I'm not allowed to game almost 90% of the year. Doesn't let me go out with my friends even on weekdays. and doesn't make me food and I have to walk to the store and use my own money to buy and cook food. Makes me sleep on the floor, usually when I forget to make my bed. When I'm currently not allowed to play video games, and before I got this secret phone, I would read a lot. So she wouldn't let me read, and I would just sit and not be allowed to do anything, pretty much bored to death. And those are the ones I can remember when off the top of my head, so there's probably a lot more. My older brother, 18M, made the mistake of telling my mom that he has a girlfriend when he was 15. Because since then she goes through his text messages every day, and also doesn't let him see her as part of his punishment. So when I started dating this girl around a year ago, I didn't make the same mistake as my brother. For me to hang out with my friends or girlfriend on weekdays, I told my mom I joined a school club. She thinks I'm in like 3 different clubs. I just show up to the clubs that I'm kind of friends with the club presidents. I show up for the club photo day and that's pretty much it, and get on the email list to prove to my mom that I am in the club. My girlfriend's parents know about my situation and are very supportive. A couple of times my mom have kicked me out, and my girlfriend's family always takes me in and makes me feel welcomed. I have already have some plans regarding my exit strategy. I already have a bank account my mom doesn't know about, because my current one she has access to. I have also talked to my grandparents and they said, "Hey, we'll pay for my university and all expenses while I'm a student." The moment I turn 18, my girlfriend's parents said I can stay with them for the couple of months between my birthday and the start of university college. Any suggestions on what I should do in preparation of leaving? The next one is an entitled Parent Story. Okay, so for backstory, my mom has been a past drug addict and also an alcoholic. Same with my dad. I lost contact with my dad several years ago. My mom didn't respect the child contact guild lines of the Child Protection Agency in New Zealand and lost contact for a while. After my grandfather died of a sudden organ failure, I was left with my best friend, and after that didn't work out. Mother issues too. Threatened to hurt the ducking kids I was with because they wanted to see me. I was on a random farm with a random woman without any friends and severe Wi-Fi restrictions. Friends in different time zones on 1 hour when they weren't on, even on weekends. This is important as it has saved me in the past from a suicide attempt which would have definitely killed me. The drugs I was looking at TKI where for a kid on the spectrum, too much will kill. I was soon flown to hospital after overdosing on paracetamol, hard pain medication from the woman. She stuffed her shoulder and operation happened, hard pain drugs, and some other random drugs. Anyway, let's begin. When getting helicoptered, they accident stuffed the first IV so it became horribly bruised, and I couldn't bend it due to pain. I wasn't on pain medication because I'm a socially frightened idiot and didn't ask like the big dumb I am. I had to sleep with both arms out due to one IV in one arm, and horrible bruising on the other. They had to pump due to overdose on paracetamol, causes liver danger, not worth it. This is important. Due to having no friends, I only had my social worker for company. So, when I got my first visitor, I was kinda excited. But when I found out it was my grandmother, mother with my baby stepsister, I was very, very unhappy. Luckily, the first time was with my social worker. She couldn't do crap since, well, mother. My grandmother fought with my social worker about visitation rights, and they soon left. My social worker told staff to not let them in again. My social worker left soon after, as she had other kids she needed to care for. So as I'm trying to relax and stay happy, in comes both of them. At this time, I was alone, staff busy. No one knew they were even in there. My mom plopped her kiddo onto my bed and started chatting to me, even going so far as to reintroducing me to my ducking father. After I struggled for a bit, with them and the child, who was getting dangerously close to my IV, I asked them to leave. They began to scream at me, reminder I wasn't in a good place, mentally and physically. I began to quickly struggle for the nurse button and I quickly pressed it. They fought with the nurse and soon left in a huff. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.